Welcome to the NC DWI Guy podcast, where defenders of the Constitution assemble to prepare for courtroom battle and firm owners gather to develop marketing strategies that will revolutionize the practice of criminal defense. Here's your host, the NC DWI Guy, Jake Minnick.
Hello, fellow freedom fighters, and welcome to episode 67 of the NC DWI Guy podcast. On today's episode, we have Jessica Rocker on the episode with us. She is the Technology Solutions Manager for SmartStart. Jessica is a skilled business professional with over 15 years in sales experience and 10 years of experience in cross-sector collaboration and leveraging strategic partnerships for growth of various organizations. Her recent role is rooted in judicial services, where she has gained an extensive amount of experience in building relationships with judges, attorneys, and political officials. Jessica has a strong background in cross-departmental project management and public speaking, and it is a great pleasure, Jessica, to have you on the podcast with us to talk about some of the technology solutions that we can utilize as practitioners when it comes to defending those charged with DWI. So very much appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be with the DWI guy today. It's going to be a fun show. So I'm excited.
When you talk with the DWI guy, you got to bring a lot of coffee to the conversation.
That's right. I got it. I'm ready. I have the game ready. So.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. I think that one of the things that's really important for us as practitioners is just to understand the different technology solutions that exist for our clients and when each one of those might be the appropriate means of kind of conveying to the court how our client has been addressing their alcohol addiction issues, whether it's for court, whether it's for personal reasons, whether it's for the DMV. And so I know that with SmartStart, the main place that I have utilized SmartStart in the past, or that my clients have utilized SmartStart in the past, is with the Ignition Interlock device. And so maybe talk a little bit about that and kind of the Ignition Interlock device itself. And then we can kind of talk about some of the other technology solutions that SmartStart has for people charged with driving while impaired.
Sure. So the biggest misconception with an interlock is that the device is going to make your car shut off. It's so funny to hear that. Is this going to make my car, turn off in the middle of traffic? No, you're not going to be going 70 miles an hour on the interstate and the car is going to shut off because you missed your test. The interlock is built as a very forgiving test. So once it's
kind of funny that you mentioned that, because until honestly just now, that was still a myth for me. Like I've heard that a number of times and I've thought to myself, that can't be right. There's no way that would be, allowed by the government for vehicles to just shut off, but nobody's ever actually kind of directly addressed that.
So there's one myth.
So there we go. I've already learned something.
That's good. That's awesome. When you start your car, you have to blow into the device. 25, 27, 30 years ago when interlocks first came out, there was no thing called a rolling retest. You just had to blow into the device and start your car. You could then drive to the bar. You could leave your car running. You could go in and throw back a couple of drinks, and then you could come and get back in your car. As long as it was still running, you were fine. You could drive wherever you wanted to. Technology evolves just like everything else, thank goodness. So now we have rolling retest where you're going to blow to start your car. And then after 5 minutes, you have to take another test. The device gives you 6 minutes to blow. That's another misconception. I like that you have to be frantic, or that it's such an urgency that you don't have time to do things. I have small children. I think you addressed that too. So you may not always have time to rush. And the last thing we want to do as a solutions provider, right, alcohol monitoring company, is to make someone even more stressed in a situation like a DUI offense. So you have 6 minutes. You can pull over and blow into the interlock device. And as long as you provide that breath sample, you're good to go. It has another test. It prompts for another test for 15 to 45 minutes. So those are random tests while you're driving. And then again, you'll have 6 minutes always, every time it prompts for a test. You can pull over and take your test. And as long as you continue to provide the breath sample and you don't blow alcohol, then you're fine. If the device detects ingested alcohol or any kind of alcohol, it's going to prompt for a retest. And then you have another retest. So that's why I said it's a forgiving device, because, you're not going to get in trouble if you have one little, if something shows up. The threshold for the IID is 0.025 and above. So any alcohol level above that is when you're going to register for alcohol.
Okay.
So,
yeah, and I think, one of the things that I always try to communicate to clients, and sometimes it's after this has already happened, but something that I think really freaks people out is when they blow into the device and there's some amount of alcohol. Maybe it's because they ate something, put something in their mouth, something in the car, that rolling retest causes it. People panic a lot of times when there's a rolling retest that shows any amount of alcohol. And so what I always communicate to clients, again, sometimes preemptively and sometimes after the fact, is do not just go to the side of the road and shut your car off and don't do the, further test. That's kind of the mechanism of proving that this is some sort of mouth contaminant or, external cause that is going on for that alcohol to read. So don't just go off and shut the car off. You're not doing yourself any favors.
That's right. And it gives you 2 minutes. It's going to require a 2-minute countdown because the fuel cell needs to clear itself out. And that just makes sure that everything is good on our end, as well as you get a glass of water or a cup of water, bottled water. We say always keep a notepad and a bottled water in your car when you have the interlock, just so if you have any things you might want to dispute with us, you can go in and your account and make a note through our website. You just put in the little notes and you file a little note there, and that goes directly into your account. If you want to dispute anything or think anything has gone on that you don't agree with, you can always make that notation with our website. And so
in terms of how that notation would then be able to be accessed, let's say down the road, is there some means? I would assume that information is not sent off to the DMV with any reports, but in terms of a client being able to kind of get a copy of any notes that they have sent in, is there some means of them being able to get a report or some sort of a verification that they submitted that note? And the reason I'm asking is that if you went to a hearing, months down the road, you've kind of forgotten the specifics of the day, or you didn't kind of, adequately notate that on a, separate sheet of paper or whatnot. Is that something that could be accessed at some later point?
Oh, it depends by state, but you can always contact our compliance division and they would let you know what the process is for that. Okay. Attorneys can also get reports if the client signs a third-party release.
Okay. Great.
So,
okay.
And the opposing party, like opposing counsel in a family law case, can get the reports if you sign a third-party release as well. So the notation factor is a case-by-case, or a state-by-state compliance thing. You just have to call in and talk to someone from compliance.
Okay. And yeah, in terms of the in terms of that kind of process for getting the reports, I think one of the things that's so powerful is being able to get a Ignition Interlock report for the upcoming DMV hearing. And recently with Smart Start, that has been a real easy process for us, at least in North Carolina, to get those reports. It's very, very important, I think, to have those and to kind of get not just the, data violation reports that DMV is issuing, but you've got a client that's got 6 or 8 months, of time with the Ignition Interlock device. And, the prior 3 reports before this most recent one show that there's no alcohol events. Get all of those. And that way you can kind of show at the DMV hearing, we've got, 6 months of compliance. Again, that just kind of goes to the weight of, well, was this an alcohol event or was it some sort of mouth contaminant? The more information that you can show on that end, I think typically the better.
Yes, we have had several cases with the portable and as well with the Ignition Interlock where judges or different parties in the judicial system are interested in establishing that record of sobriety. It just helps. Like you said, the more information of sobriety always helps a client in any case.
Exactly. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the biggest thing in terms of trying to plan for a upcoming DMV hearing from an attorney end of things, I think really is to have the ability to meaningfully review those reports with clients ahead of time. And so the earlier you can get those reports back, the better, so that it's not, several days before a hearing that you're going through that information with your client, that if you have a question mark about anything, I know I've contacted Smart Start and other Interlock reps in the past in terms of, hey, I'm trying to read this report. Can you tell me what's going on, what these different indicators are? And typically, again, if you can kind of get the information about what that looks like, sometimes I think even the DMV hearing officers, as much as they see these things and are trained on them, don't know what every single kind of designation is on the report. So just making sure that you're comfortable with that report that you're looking at, I think, is a big factor.
Yes, and we have trained program specialists that are interpreters for the report. They'll do the interpretation for you again if you have any questions. So the only thing we ask is that you let us know at least 72 hours in advance, because sometimes with attorneys, they will call us like the morning before, or the morning of, and they're like, can I have this report right now? And as much as we'd like to provide it, we want to provide great service to all of our clients. So we just ask that you submit that request 72 hours in advance.
Yeah, exactly. And again, I think that that's even in terms of being able to go over that with your client, really important part of it. So I guess in terms of the interlock, a lot of times that is being installed for driving privilege purposes, whether that's for the Ignition Interlock driving privilege or as a result of license reinstatement and that being required for some period of time for the actual license to be considered valid in North Carolina. So again, I think that that's the most kind of accessible form of this type of technology to attorneys, because it's just simply required. Like, you can't get your client a limited driving privilege without that Ignition Interlock. But what are some of the other technologies that exist on the kind of alcohol monitoring end that are not kind of vehicle related monitoring devices?
We have a suite of portable alcohol monitoring devices, and the one I'll talk to you about today is the in-home SmartMobile. So this is what that device looks like, and you can schedule up to 10 tests a day. It's court admissible. It's backed by a FRI paper with the Justice Speakers Institute, and it has the brains of the interlock.
Okay.
So it's the interlock has been NHTSA standard. All the individuals and the agencies, the powers that be, have certified that device. And we took the brains of the interlock and put it in a portable device so that individuals could establish a record of sobriety. Or sometimes these devices are used as condition of bond or pretrial. We have some diversion programs nationwide, or not we, but there are diversion programs that are nationwide that use the SmartMobile device, and it's very affordable. It's only about $40 more than the Ignition Interlock, $40 or $50 more than the Ignition Interlock, and that's nationwide. So we're excited to have that product for individuals to use so they can establish that record of sobriety as well.
And that 10 tests, up to 10 tests a day, how are those scheduled? Are those scheduled kind of ahead of time? Are they on a schedule? Are they random tests? What does that look like in terms of how the device is testing?
So it just depends on the court order. Okay. In family law, a lot of times the opposing party will schedule the test, specifically when the client has the children, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
And then also for DUI, it could be the probation officer that manages it. And it just depends on the court too. We have some courts that we're like, we don't care that you're going to be at work at this time. You have to test this hour. So make sure this unit is at your desk, or it's somewhere in your area where you'll know to take your test. And then we have some courts that say, you don't get off of work till 1 a.m., for someone who works a night shift, or 2 a.m. So their test is going to be right at 2:30.
Right. Okay.
It also gives GPS location. when you take your test. And it also takes a picture of your face as well to make sure that the person who's sanctioned on the device takes the test. So you can have a random test. You can have a scheduled test. You can also do an on-demand test. So probation and judicial assistants or whoever can go into our system, whoever is the designated monitoring authority, and they can go in our system and push a button and the device will prompt for a test.
That's awesome. I think that one of the real powers of that kind of technology is the ability to show sobriety. So, in North Carolina, we have kind of statutory allowances at the higher level of misdemeanor sentencing. So level A1, level 1, level 2, at those particular sentence levels, if you do continuous alcohol monitoring, the judge can then give a carrot in sentencing of basically reducing the required minimum jail time in all three of those situations. And so that's that, a ankle bracelet or continuous alcohol monitoring device is allowed for that. But this device is a much more affordable and I would say less invasive device than the continuous alcohol monitoring device. So the continuous alcohol monitoring is worn on the ankle, basically around the clock every day until you've kind of finished whatever continuous alcohol monitoring period. And so this device that you can kind of have again in your desk, in various locations as you're driving around. All that you can use that to then show that continuous period of sobriety. So as you prepare for a DMV reinstatement hearing, or you are just trying to kind of show a judge in sentencing, I've been doing what I need to do. I've been maintaining sobriety for probably approximately less than half the cost of a continuous alcohol monitoring device. You're going to be able to show that same information. So again, there may be court advantages to using the CAM device, but if those advantages don't exist, this is a much more affordable means of showing continuous alcohol, a lack of use of alcohol.
Right. And what I've noticed also nationwide is it's a partnership, right? So the courts, they may know about our device. We try to do as much as we can to let people know the products we have available. But also the attorneys can go in and say, hey, this is a much more affordable and it tests up to 10 times a day. And you can make the schedule, or if you agree to allow the attorney to make the schedule, whatever the case may be, the prosecutor, the schedule gets made. The client is being monitored. You have GPS location. You can verify it's the client. And like you said, it's much less invasive. A lot of our clients are working people, business people. They may be at the beach with their family. They don't necessarily want something attached to their body. Right. Part of the treatment part is not to be humiliating, right? It's you don't want to humiliate someone. So we always try to find ways that we can monitor for alcohol with discretion.
Right. Yeah. I think that I had a client that, recently just said, is there any way around this continuous alcohol monitoring? As much as I want to be able to prove sobriety, I love going to the pool with my kids over the summer. And, again, maybe you think, well, that's kind of like a superficial concern, but it's really not, right? You want to have that family time. You want to be able to spend that time without kind of having any level of embarrassment or having to go like fully dressed in the sun to the pool every day with your kids. Yeah. That's right. I mean, so I think it's a really helpful thing. And we had kind of talked about a little bit before we started the recording. I've had clients that have had eczema or other skin irritation problems with the continuous alcohol monitoring device. And I know that the installers of the CAM will typically do a lot of work to make sure that it's kind of as comfortable as it possibly can be. But at the same time, I mean, again, obviously, if it's not something that's attached to your body, the comfort level is just going to be completely easy on the breath end of things. So again, it just is a less invasive device that is getting to the same end result. If you have 10 tests a day, you're going to have a difficult time, scheduling your drinking into those 10 tests a day.
Yes, especially when we can make them a random test window.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
You can have random windows and the person doesn't know when their test is coming anyway. So they're going to get caught up. But, if you're drinking, you're going to get caught slipping. We can make that happen. So the best way to do it is just to not drink and establish a record of sobriety, and then take this as a treat. I often think that this device is a great opportunity for the end user and the court, and the criminal defense attorney to establish that record.
Yeah, I recently had a situation come up with one of the prosecutors in a county that I practice in that basically was trying to have a continuous alcohol monitoring device on a client that had received his third DWI. So all 3 DWIs were pending. On the second one, the prosecutor said, we're going to ask for a modification of the bond because he was released after he was charged on just a written promise. And so they said, we're going to ask for a modification of the bond to show continuous alcohol monitoring. And so he had already planned on getting continuous alcohol monitoring installed as a kind of sentencing remedy to kind of work towards a better sentencing outcome. But again, if that is a bond modification that is asked for in a specific situation, I think this would also be another option to present to the state of, if we could do this without any requirement of a some sort of a bond condition requiring CAM. This would be, again, a same means of proving sobriety. So again, on a second offense, or if you have a client that's charged with a habitual impaired driving charge and the state is looking to try to impose some sort of bond conditions or pretrial release, I think this would be a good thing for the defense to suggest of a means of proving continuous sobriety.
Yes. And again, I would say some of the products out there that are portable are the same cost of CAM, and our product, our SmartMobile, is half that price. So you get the same. They charge for reporting in other companies. They charge for so many like calls. There's so many additional little fees. We just have a flat rate. You can call us. You can get the reports. All of that is inclusive of. We don't try to nickel and dime, on that portable, because we know DUI costs are high, right? I mean, people are paying treatment, they're paying their attorney. The Ignition Interlock is very affordable. We try to keep our products at a few dollars a day, $3, $4, $5 a day, just so that individuals can get through this and it's not so cumbersome.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it is. The cost factor really does come into play, especially when you're trying to show sobriety for a period of 3 to 5 months. It's not something that you're just trying to show for a week. Those dollars add up pretty quick when you're doing it for months on end. And so again, I think that is important. I think that in terms of any sentencing plan or any preparation plan for a DMV, I always tell the client, here's how we would walk into court in an ideal world, right? If money was not an issue, then here's the things that you would do kind of prior to having our hearing, prior to having a sentence issued by the judge. And then I say, but realistically, money is an issue, right? Like, I mean, everybody's got to kind of, sit down and figure out finances, and there's a ton of different costs that are going into it. So I think that, again, having these different options presented to the client, you might have 2 different clients in different financial positions. And one of them, says, I think the CAM device is right for me. And another one says, I think that the, mobile device is the right way to go. And so I think that, just being able to present those different options and realize that there are kind of choices that exist on that front is really helpful to clients.
Yes, I would agree.
So I guess in terms of, some of the success that you've seen with the sobriety courts in North Carolina, we've now got a number of DWI sobriety courts that are, again, designed as treatment-based courts to help people that are charged with a DWI really kind of do a course correct in life, and have been very successful here in North Carolina. And a lot of those courts, our local court here in Buncombe County, does require a period of continuous alcohol monitoring, or a period of being able to kind of show sobriety. And so I guess if you could just speak to whether that mobile device, have you seen that be successful with the, treatment-based courts or sobriety courts?
Yes, we do. Any of the treatment courts. So you have veterans courts, you've got family courts, you have sobriety courts, as you refer to them in North Carolina. They often will use our device to establish that record. And the one thing that's great about this is if a person doesn't have a car, we've talked about before, if you're not driving, but you still need to have a record of sobriety, then this is a great device. And the treatment courts do often use this because it's affordable and it allows the client to still establish that record, and it's less invasive than the CAM. So yes, the treatment courts and the judges, the DUI courts here in Georgia have used it. Florida, pretrial, diversion, nationwide. We've got several courts that use the SmartMobile device to establish that record.
Yeah, the family courts, and you had mentioned that a few minutes back. I think that's such a powerful thing, because I've seen that come up where there's kind of a custody case going on at the same time as a DWI, and how is the DWI charge going to impact my custody hearing? Again, if your attorney on the custody hearing can walk in and show sobriety, that's, I think, going to be a big factor for a judge in terms of any ruling on that front. But even within the DWI context itself, in North Carolina, it's a grossly aggravating factor to have a child under the age of 18 in the car with you at the time of driving. So that automatically, whether it's one child or multiple children under the age of 18, that automatically elevates the charge to a level 1. And in most counties, there will be a charge of driving while impaired, and also a charge of misdemeanor child abuse that's basically connected to the DWI. That's the sole basis for the child abuse charge. And so anytime that there is a filed complaint of child abuse or a charge of child abuse, DSS is supposed to get involved. Now, I've seen times where that hasn't happened, and I don't know if that's just because of a lack of communication between police and DSS or how that kind of gets lost in the system, but DSS is supposed to get involved. And so again, just another opportunity to then kind of immediately show to DSS, look, I'm sober. I can prove that to you. So if you're concerned about, removing the child from the home, don't let alcohol be the reason, because I can prove to you that I'm maintaining sobriety. So another place where that could be utilized.
Yes. Actually, I have people who are through trust attorneys who allow clients to be monitored for alcohol in order to receive payments. There are so many cases where alcohol monitoring is a factor in DUIs, in family courts, in tribal courts. There are so many opportunities to use that record and use this mechanism as an affordable, non-invasive mechanism to establish that record. And again, like I said before, the interlock is just the brains of the interlock inside. So if you blow and a violation shows, it's going to ask for a retest, and it's going to prompt for another retest. And again, the white paper allows it to be court admissible. And people from our operations team will come and speak, will testify to the quality of the device and the fuel cell in court. If there's any question or any dispute, we'll come and stand behind our device.
Yeah, and I think at the kind of end of the day, in terms of the value of that handheld device, for anybody that's really trying to achieve sobriety, for anybody that is actually recognizes that they have a drinking problem, or there is an addiction factor that is going into kind of what led to this specific situation, there's just a kind of wonderful accountability that is built into that device. And I feel like having that accountability is so important in terms of being able to successfully move from addiction to a state of sobriety. And again, it doesn't mean that the addiction actually, goes away, but right. to get to that point of sobriety. And so, you think about how much people would spend on a life coach or therapy or, mental health treatment, addiction therapy, whatever it might be. This is a means of having that kind of, multi-day accountability. It's kind of like what the value of an AA sponsor is that kind of check-in, that, call or meeting, whatever it might be. This has the ability to kind of do that same thing. And so I do think that there is a real kind of safety net that is built into that accountability structure. And anytime that you can have accountability be part of the treatment program, that I think really gives the person the best chance of achieving that dream of sobriety. So from just a personal standpoint, I think that there's a lot of value in that. I don't know if you could speak to any like success stories that you guys have seen, but I think that's really a powerful mechanism.
We have several cases. So in another state, not North Carolina, but we had a mother who was driving home, who had picked her children up from the babysitter in the neighborhood. It was, I think, one neighborhood over, but she got stopped by the police and she had 2 children. So in terms of her pretrial and pre-conviction, she was able to get the SmartMobile and establish that record. And it helped her in terms of her treatment be more accountable, even though she just, to her point, she made a mistake. But to the state's point, she was still driving impaired with 2 minor children under 14, which is 3 DUIs in Georgia. So she was able to establish that record, and it helped her establish her own accountability with her family and her children and her ex-husband and things of that nature, to try to bring the trust back in the family. And it's been very important for us. We really want to help people. We know that addiction is an issue that it touches everyone's lives. There's no economic factor, no race, no area that it doesn't touch. Addiction can touch anyone. So we're so thankful that we provide products to help people get through that time. And it is a part of the treatment and the therapy and the accountability. And we love doing what we do for that reason.
Yeah. And I think, even just to kind of, again, have that accountability factor built in, the interlock device is more about kind of public safety, right? Like the safety of others. So, we want to make sure that a person that has, received, a DWI with a high alcohol concentration in North Carolina, or has multiple offenses of driving while impaired, that when they get into the car, other drivers on the roadway are going to be protected, right? Yeah, public safety issue. The handheld device, again, seems much more focused on the individual, right? Because maybe you don't even have the ability to get a license. Maybe there's really not any incentive to drink alcohol while driving, but maybe there would be, on the weekends or other times when that you don't have to drive. And so this, again, in terms of being able to achieve sobriety, whether it's trying to prove it to the court, but I'd say more importantly to yourself. Yeah. Prove to yourself you can do this. I think that is just such a kind of mental advantage point of being able to show, look, I can do this and I can remain accountable. And when there's that very strong urge to drink, it's again, that just accountability factor of, I've got too much at stake to kind of have this one moment of weakness. And again, it's not a fail-proof system, but it certainly kind of builds into that a accountability structure that's completely absent without that.
Another measure. Yes. And then in some states, you're required to get the interlock, and some people don't have cars. They totaled their car in a DUI, or they just no longer have the car, or like we've discussed before, when you don't have a license, you can still establish this record and you're not driving. And it's just a daily accountability measure that you've proven to yourself, because we have to prove things to ourselves first. It's like me working out in the morning. I've got to prove it to myself that I'm going to stay committed, so this thing is just a wonderful option. The SmartMobile is a wonderful option to keep yourself accountable, and in family matters, like we said, or any DUI offense where, your family is championing for you. Like you said, a habitual offender, that many people are affected after several DUIs come into play. If it's a second offense or third offense, your support system all around you is affected in a DUI. So we hope that, or any alcohol addiction. So we hope that SmartMobile can be an affordable measure for people. And again, it's one of the most affordable. It's priced so that we can be of value and be there for our clients in tough situations.
Yeah, I love that. And I think in terms of, maybe a good place to kind of wrap up our conversation, Jessica, I think, the biggest thing I think for attorneys in this practice area is, not all of these options are kind of widely known, in terms of having the ability to get Ignition Interlock or even a CAM device, but certainly like this mobile technology. So where could attorneys go to kind of find out more about this kind of technology?
So you can go to smartstartinc.com always. That's smartstartinc.com. And there's several little avenues you can find our information. My email is jessica.rocker@smartstartinc.com. You can always email me and contact me, and I'll be happy to find you a person who you can reach in your state that can help you with the SmartMobile or the Ignition Interlock. We also go to the national conferences for drug courts, NADCP. We go to the APPA, which is the probation and parole associations. We do the family court, the juvenile court. So we're letting the judges know about our products. And we also think the attorneys should say, hey, can we use Smart Start, or can we use a portable alcohol monitoring, not just Smart Start, but can we use a portable alcohol monitoring device in this situation to establish this record? So it's a twofold thing. We educate them on the value of the product, and then we educate the attorneys as well. So if you need to reach us, you can just go to our website and we'd be happy to help.
Yeah, I love that. And I appreciate you sharing the personal contact information. I think that, again, in terms of information and us being able as a bar to kind of bring this information to the courts, again, we can't give it to the courts unless we know about it ourselves. But there's so many times when I think that there would be the same end result at just a much more affordable and less invasive cost. So, with sobriety courts, if sobriety court requires a continuous alcohol monitoring device, maybe there's a suggestion that could be made in your particular jurisdiction of, hey, let's use the handheld device. It's more affordable for these people that are going through the court. It gets the same end result of proving sobriety. Person doesn't have to wear it all the time. It doesn't have this embarrassment factor to it. So again, being able to kind of educate the courts and craft the appropriate kind of response to the particular need comes from knowing what the choices are that are out there. So I certainly appreciate you coming on and sharing that information. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Jessica. Hopefully we can get you back on in the future. Maybe once we've had more of an opportunity to use this with our clients at the office, we can have another discussion about it.
I'll be happy to send you one to play around with, with your staff. So
Hey, I would love that. We will definitely take you up on that.
Okay. Let's talk. We will.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much, Jake.
Thank you, Jessica.
All right. Take care.
If you found the information in this podcast to be valuable, I simply ask that you pay it forward and share this podcast with another member of the legal community. Also, if you would leave us a rating or a review on whatever platform you are listening on, I would greatly appreciate it.